Welcome to Mental Health, the Crisis of Our Time. My name is Ann Bergen. I am the host of this series of programs brought to you by Franklin TV, whose mission is really to bring important topics relevant to the community out so we can, to inform, to make the residents aware of issues that are very, very important. And the issue we have to address is mental health. It is truly the epidemic of our time. We are looking at soaring rates of anxiety and depression, domestic violence, suicide, suicidal ideation, substance misuse, overdose, and then certainly crime associated with substance misuse. And we know that 1 in 5 unhoused individuals are living with a mental health situation. In a community, who gets the 911 call when a person completely loses control over emotions, who threatens suicide or harm to others? Someone who becomes wildly erratic or paranoid when an overdose or imminent overdose occurs, or there are serious issues of domestic violence. The police are our first responders. The mental health crisis has had an enormous impact on policing. But the town of Franklin has seen how mental health is impacting the community, and they have done something about it. And to that end, they have created a co-response team, pairing up mental health clinicians with police to go out on calls, to answer calls, essentially, that involve with mental health or substance abuse issues. And we have 2 of those co-responders with us today, and they have graciously agreed to sit down and have a conversation with me, mostly because we really want to make the community aware of this powerful initiative and how it's making a huge impact on our community. So right now I am honored to welcome Kallie Montagano and Sonja Wagner.
Yes.
Right, okay. Who are these mental health clinicians, and Kallie, you are the manager of the initiative
program,
of the
yes.
program. So what I was going to ask first is because I just especially love to see particularly young women who come out and are out there making a difference in the world. It's very inspirational to me personally. So I just wanted the people in the community to know just a little bit. I know you're modest and you're humble and all that, but just to sort of a little bit about your backgrounds and how you came to this line of work, which I have to say isn't easy. But Kallie, do you want to start and sort of say how you ended up in Franklin and what your background was before that?
I'll try to be brief, yes.
There's a lot of it. You've done a lot. You've done a lot.
I grew up in a law enforcement family, so my father is a retired state trooper, so I've been drawn to that police culture, but didn't want to be a police officer. Has always been intrigued by psychology and the mental health piece of it. So started in crisis work. I did evaluations in the emergency department for about 4 years. And then I actually applied for the Franklin Medway. It was a regional program, the co-response program, and started up that program.
You started up?
Yes, through a third-party agency, but I was their first clinician.
Just saying.
Yes. So I did that for about 3 years, and then I got promoted within my agency, did some trainings and teachings throughout the state on how to do co-response correctly. And Franklin said they wanted to create their own program without a regional partner, and approached me and said, would you be willing to start this up and come back to us? And I've had such a special place in my heart for Franklin, so it was a very easy decision, and I've been back since July full-time with the town.
And what was the quote when you came back was from The Godfather?
Oh, it was, I forget.
Oh, yeah. Something about just when I thought I was.
Just when I thought I was out, they bring me back in.
I love that.
Very easily.
Yes, but we're glad you came back, so that's good.
Thank you.
Sonja, how about you? Tell us about, because I don't know much about your background,
Sure.
so tell me about that too.
So I'm from Florida. So I was born and raised there. I went to undergrad there, and then started my master's degree there. And I had been doing some work with a nonprofit in Connecticut, actually for young adult or for children with chronic diseases. It's Paul Newman's camp.
Oh, wow.
Over there, Hole in the Wall Gang camp. So I kind of got more acquainted with the area, knew I wanted to eventually move up here. So as part of my internship, I actually worked at Walden Behavioral Care. It's eating disorder. They work with clients with eating disorders. But was just kind of drawn to this line of work and I had worked as an EMT through college and through grad school to pay my way, and really loved like the crisis calls, really loved being on scene and helping people in a time of need. And I do have a background in psychology, and then of course my master's in mental health counseling. So actually I was on vacation and I was looking for jobs to apply for, like permanent jobs, because I had been volunteering young adult cancer survivors and doing various things in the mental health field, but I was just looking and saw this co-response job, and I hadn't seen anything like it prior. You know, I knew that I didn't want to do traditional counseling, like sitting in an office. I value it. I go to therapy every week, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do. And so I started, actually, I got hired by the same organization, the third-party organization that Kallie was with, through Franklin and Medway, and I started the program in Natick, and then moved over to Marlborough for a little bit, and was just kind of looking to change things up, looking for a little career advancement, a little change of pace. And so she was like, I just started the program in Franklin. And so
it's a good partnership.
Yep, exactly. And so, and I wasn't sure about leaving the programs that I had known, because I was with that organization for 5 years. But it took one visit to Franklin, and everybody, it was such a nice experience. I was like very anxious and nervous about the move, but I went and I was there, I think, for an hour, and we just talked, and she had a few officers that came and just said, what are your concerns? What questions do you have? What can we do? What do you need? And yeah, that was it. So
what I'm thinking is just, I've been in part of the Franklin community for many years, and just to watch what this Franklin Police Department has become, and the people who, all of the people associated with the police department, it's rather extraordinary, and that to have you people there too, it's pretty good, just saying.
Oh, yeah, Kallie laid great groundwork. Yeah. I came in and it was so flawless, it was so seamless getting in. Everybody knew how it worked, knew what reports they should forward to us, what calls they should bring us to, what questions to ask. It was truly seamless. She laid great groundwork over the last 7 years, and now with the program being in-house in Franklin and in the town of Franklin, it's really incredible. So
one of the things we had talked about before we came on air was I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about what police work looks like today. And I had this image of, people thinking that police work is like the old Andy of Mayberry, show where they go around and they're checking locks on the doors and things like that. I just need you to paint a picture of some of the big issues that the police department is dealing with relative to, and then I want to hear how you guys, what part your role in this, but what are those, to paint the picture of the big issues around mental health and substance use that the Franklin police and police across the country, this isn't a Franklin problem. I mean, this is, we keep our heads in the sand if we think this isn't happening here as well. We have to identify it and deal with it. But can you speak a little bit, both of you, about what are the issues that we're seeing out there now, and maybe exacerbated by COVID and all of the things that happened, but and the times that we're living in. Can you speak to that so people get a picture of it?
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying the way that we were trained, which was pretty thoroughly, and the way, even today, we hear a call come in and we're listening, because truly any call can become a mental health crisis. You have a car accident and someone is seriously injured, or they have a baby in the back seat and the mother's frantic and it's in the middle of the road. The police need to focus on directing traffic. We can stand by with that person and just provide support.
I didn't realize that. So you'd be called even to those, not even, but to those situations, because clearly,
So the beauty of the co-response program is that we're in the cruiser with the officer. So we'll go out on the road with officers, even just for a drive. They'll say, do you want to come out on the road with me? We'll go out, and if no calls happen, then so be it. They can do their work as normal. Pull over cars, we can be in the cruiser at the time. So we're in the cruiser at all times, so that when a call comes in, we're there immediately, so it's a faster response. I shouldn't have said all times, because we don't,
Sure.
we're not there
Right.
40 hours a week, but ideally that's the goal of the co-response. We can be picked up from the station, but we're always with a police officer.
So you'll see incidents like that. What are the ones, the specific incidents that the police are dealing with that you're going to be sort of doing like the follow-up to it as in your roles? For example, when I interviewed Jack Flynn, and he was talking, one of my former students, and talking about some of the calls they get around domestic violence and substance misuse. How many of those calls are out there now? He was reporting that it was something they have to respond to a lot.
Yep.
Can you speak to that a bit? How much is that? Because I think people need to see the kinds of issues that police have to deal with out there.
I would say we get almost daily calls for substance use issues, not necessarily overdoses, but sometimes we don't even know if it's an overdose. If it was a medical issue, it was called in as somebody not breathing, you don't know, necessarily. But since COVID, I think that has had a large effect on the substance use issues. We've seen a lot more of overdoses and cases of substance use. I would say it's a daily occurrence, when we might be getting calls from like a concerned family member or a community member who sees the person kind of walking erratically, or even sometimes we get calls from the liquor stores or places where these individuals are buying alcohol, or various community locations where somebody's recognizing their behavior is a little bit odd, and then we're able to respond, and if the person is in the place, to kind of talk about a conversation regarding, we can refer a recovery coach, so we can have somebody call them, like a peer support, somebody who's been through the situation. We can help them look for treatment programs that they can get into. If, at the time of the conversation, they don't seem like they're able to, or that they're in the place to have that talk, we're able to follow up with them on the other side, whether that's a phone call or whether we go along with an officer. And after every overdose that we have in the community, we do what we call an overdose follow-up. And one of us will go with detectives, plainclothes detectives, so it's not super intimidating. And they'll explain, we're not here to bust you, we're not here that's not what this is about. This is about us offering you support and offering services. So we can just have a conversation on that level, where they're not here, they make it very clear, they're not in trouble. It's truly just because the Franklin Police Department cares, and they don't want, the next time they respond to this overdose, for it to be a fatal overdose.
Exactly. Is there part of your work is sort of diversion, and one of the reason I bring this up is because Jim Derrick and I from the Safe Coalition interviewed a young man yesterday, and he is a recovering alcoholic. He's a young guy, and family man. He has a little girl and all of that. But he's had a couple of DUIs over the years. He's facing now jail time because of his alcoholism. He has been in recovery. He's turned his life around. How much of what you do is maybe diversion to keep people out of jail? I don't know. Is that part of what you guys do?
Absolutely, and particularly around substance use too. We have a little less control or a little less ability in situations like a DUI or domestic situations where there was physical violence involved. But in a case where somebody's acting erratically in public, where they might get a charge for disorderly conduct or disturbing the peace, then we're usually able to...
Because there was no harm to anyone else that way,
Or it might be someone we're familiar with. So when we, roll up on scene with the police, we all know who this person is, and the public might see something different, but we know this person, and we know what they might be going through, so we can try to get them help, get them to the hospital, whatever it might be that they need, in an effort to divert them from that arrest, because they're not going to get help that way.
And you made it clear before we came on air that, number one, the message is you're not trying to replace police, you're not acting as, you have a totally different role, and it's, can you speak the difference between your role and that of, now you don't wear police uniforms or badges, or tell us a little bit about how your role different, is
we
different.
have jackets and
to identify.
Yes, that have the patch on it, and it'll say like co-response or clinician.
Okay.
Just so
to identify.
And they don't people don't think we're like nosy neighbors or looky-loos. Like I've gotten that question on scene. From like paramedics will be like, "Are you a family member?" Or I've gotten the question from like a medical professional at like a pharmacy, and she was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm just here to help. I'm here to help."
Look at the
Cut out the explanation.
Yeah, exactly. But we're not in uniform, so we're not not rolling in with a bulletproof vest and like uniforms and a bunch of gear. We want to be a friendly
we'll go
face.
just like this. And we carry vests. which are up
Which
to
absolutely.
us and to the police whether or not we wear them. So I think both of us have done this work long enough that if we are headed to a call and we hear those key words, we'll put the vest on. Or if we're with an officer who feels more comfortable, if we have it on, absolutely, we defer to the police.
But for our run-of-the-mill calls, we try not to like have an intimidating presence because we want to be able to tell them, anything you tell me, you're not going to get in trouble for unless it's that you're a harm to yourself or somebody else, or that there's you're abusing like a vulnerable population. Those mandatory reporting kind of areas. So that's our intention is always just to, then our main goal is to divert. We want to divert both from arrest because these people don't belong, if it's rooted in mental illness, don't belong in jail, and also divert from the hospital to keep them from going through the system. Exactly. That's one of our biggest,
which is so overloaded.
Exactly, and so they don't have the means to really be helping these people in the way that they can. So instead, we try to work with community providers to find out who has openings, who has availability for the specific kind of care and treatment that this individual needs. So like our work isn't done after we leave the scene of a call. We're still trying to work to make sure this individual has all the resources and all the referrals and all of the providers they could need.
All right, well, I was going to get your perspective on this because just recently I interviewed people from the Senior Center, then the Veterans Organization, and later on today I'm going to interview our state rep, Jeff Roy, because I want to find out about one of the things I'm hearing from everybody is there just aren't enough services out there. You can refer people, but the wait lists for services are forever. What are you two finding about access to services, and do you finding that it's frustrating? Is there, because I'm meeting with Jeff and I could share what you tell me. I won't use your names.
I would say I think the biggest issue is housing for sure.
That's our biggest
in this community. However, on the other side of that, Franklin, we are like rich with resources within our own town. And we all work really well together. I talk to Jen and I probably every day.
She's lovely.
She's amazing. And just what the SAFE Coalition does and how great we can work with them, and the Senior Center.
The Senior Center has been amazing.
Fabulous. And we're so lucky to be in this town that we can just make a phone call. We know who to call, that we can get someone services just within town. The outside referrals are I would agree, are very frustrating. Since COVID, the numbers have just, everyone wants
but housing, every single person mentions housing, so that's going to be one of my first questions. Well, how is the state dealing with that? Because that is the biggest issue. Veterans, seniors, everybody, housing is
that is the most difficult thing to encounter a homeless individual or an unhoused individual, and to be able to tell them like, there's nothing that I can do for you. And it's frustrating for the officers too, because in their mind, we're like, they think we're like, it's almost like the Mary Poppins of clinicians, you know what I mean? Where we can just pull it out and make it happen, because there's so many situations where we can make things happen. And so like, hey, I have this homeless person, and they'll even tell the individual like, hey, like I'm gonna have somebody contact you. And then we have to be like, right now, like, these are the other things we can provide for you in the meantime, the food pantry, the wonderful resources we have. I mean, I was shocked. I came in November, the beginning of November, so I've been here for 2 months. And the ease at which I'm able to refer people to resources within Franklin has been amazing. I know for a fact if I pass somebody on to somebody, to another provider in the community, they're going to be taken care of. And I don't have to doubt that. In the other towns that I was working in, that wasn't always the case. That was like been my, and it like
important.
It makes my heart truly happy because, and we have a meeting with the Senior Center and Veterans Affairs and the Fire Department and Board of Health every single month. Every single month,
unbelievable.
And we talk about people in the community who might need help, because this way we all, like the Fire Department may have responded to a call for a lift assist. Somebody like an older person has fallen
that didn't require police,
and they can't get up. Police weren't there, so, and Board of Health wasn't, and all these people weren't there. So, but the fire department was able to see that the house was really hoarded, or that they didn't have air conditioning, or they didn't have heat, or that they didn't have power. So then they're able to come back to that meeting and say, what can we do? And then the Senior Center gets involved, because they can help. And then if there's a veteran involved, or even the spouse of a veteran, so it's just like such a great way to kind of brainstorm how to help these people. It's really incredible. I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but it was really incredible coming from the other towns. And I worked in the same line of work for 5 years, and then I come here and I
told her all this, and she was like, okay, and you don't see it until you're actually here.
Yeah, it's been really incredible.
All right, so here I have a question as a former elementary and middle school principal. Here's my question. You're called to a scene. Let's say it's a domestic violence scene, and there's a child. let's say it's a Saturday night, and the child has witnessed their mom or dad being hauled off, arrested, brought, or whatever. That child shows up to school on Monday. Does the school know? Is there a partnership with the schools so that they are aware of the needs of this child who has been exposed to this trauma to come in? Because that was always something that was important to me to say, kids acting out.
What's going on?
You didn't have the context to know.
Why are we not sharing this information? So can you speak to me about that?
Yes, we have 4 school resource officers within the department who are all amazing. So they're split between all the schools in Franklin. And if we encounter a kiddo, or if any of the patrol officers encounter a kiddo when the school resource officers aren't there, they'll leave a report, maybe send an email, just at least notify them that this kiddo was encountered and this is what happened, and that school resource officer will notify the school. They won't provide all the details.
No, they can't because of confidentiality.
Just something happened, you know, I think the term is like handle with care.
Yeah.
Handle this kiddo with care today because something happened over the weekend.
The kiddo might need an extra check-in, that kind of thing. And vice versa, the school resource officers also let us know when something has happened at school, even if like we don't necessarily can do anything because the school handles situations in-house. But just yesterday I actually got a report from a school resource officer about a behavioral incident at school. It happened during school hours, but he wanted us to know in the event that it spills out into his home life. So if we get a call and I hear that name or I hear the address, then it will trigger something, and then I can help and respond because I have the background information that the other, like the officer responding, may not actually have seen the report.
No, that's crucial, isn't it? Because that
so it works both ways.
It's so important. It's just that we have just so many kids in our schools, and then the teachers don't know, and then but just have that information, just handle with care. There was an incident, and if they act up or something, that just don't, punish them and keep them after school.
Right.
Like that.
Yes.
I know what I was going to ask you is that given everything that police are dealing with now, and that the scenes that they're called to, and even if you think, when you talk about being called to the scenes of accidents and the trauma that you experience, is there care taken for the mental health and well-being of the police, of you guys, in terms of, are there resources for them? I'm just curious. Is that something that's part of?
Yes, there are a great deal of law enforcement resources, and though it's not our official capacity because we are, coworkers are working alongside them. If there's an incident that happened, I mean, there's been incidents where I'll stay a little bit longer in the station and leave the door to my office open, and they'll kind of filter in and, just kind of gently provide resources to them, and just be that person that say, hey, like, my family member is in need of a therapist, and they can come to us and ask us, and we can point them in the right direction. It's like an easy access point for them to go.
There's so many times they don't even realize that like they're being therapized, I like to say, we're in the cruiser and they may be talking about a call that we weren't even on, but you can tell that it affected them. It's days later, or even talking about some issues that they might be facing at home, or some stress that they have, with the job. And we're just kind of a good sounding board, and just because of who we are, we're like we do it in like a very low-key way. They don't even realize that we're providing that support, but we are. We know that we are, and we know that they're getting the support. But then, like she said, there are in Massachusetts, there are a pretty good deal of specific, like law enforcement specific therapy programs, because you want, of course, an officer wants to go speak to somebody who understands their line of work, not just an everyday therapist. They need somebody that will understand what they're doing and what they're going through.
And you said, that you have felt welcomed into the, your role has been, because it's tough, because it's a new thing, and sometimes people don't want the status quo changed. They liked it the way it was. We don't need any more people in our business.
Well, you've been in it since the start. Can you speak to what it was like at the beginning versus now?
They were amazing in the beginning.
I didn't have the same.
You did not. I would wonder about that.
I had to really warm them up, and they're great guys. In Natick, though, they were not super. Now they love the program, and it's continued in my absence. But I really had to earn my foot in, and worked out.
It's a skill,
but-
though, isn't it? I think particularly young people, that sometimes you're going to be dealing with that, and you have to know how to. That's where your skill
Adversity,
comes in,
right? Yep. Exactly.
For
Thick skin.
sure.
Exactly. Yep.
It's really true.
And awkward, just being able to sit in that awkward.
Like he doesn't really like me, and
Yeah.
he doesn't understand the point of my job. But
I will change that.
Especially the older, particularly when I was.
There you
It's
go,
the older
right.
officers who I have done this for 30 years and I haven't
right.
needed anybody, and
Yeah.
but times really are changing.
right.
Like we're seeing, and even calls that we didn't realize were mental health, rooted in mental health.
Right.
Then we're realizing now they are.
But I do think, and I think from all of this is the point I wanted to get across, especially is the work that the police department does, and how challenging it is, how dangerous it is, and how important the work that you do in support of people who are going through these crises, in their lives, and how much they need compassion and understanding to be seen, to be heard. So, I just, it's so important to thank you for what you do. I just had one final question in terms of if you thought of, is there anything when you think about needs out there, in terms of staffing, if you had a wish list of things that you could see, in terms of the future of the town, or what the police department would need to be even better, is there anything you can think of? Or
A new station.
yeah. Okay, good.
We are so overcrowded.
Okay, that's important to know.
yes.
Yeah.
I
in a
share what was a
closet.
closet with two other
Okay, yeah.
officers, so it was like intended to be a closet, and there's three of us
that's
in
okay.
there.
And it's
3 of us and 2 dogs. So
it's very small. We don't have a good training space, which is
Yeah,
unfortunate.
you need that.
But it's nice because you see everyone every day, so we're not on different floors, which is kind of nice. There's no parking though. We're very overcrowded.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
New
important
station.
because I think when people say, wait a minute, you got we had that station not that long ago, we don't need it. I mean, and I know it's coming.
I think they said it was built for maybe 30 people, and I think we're at 70
Yeah.
And
It's
more
time.
women too
Yeah.
than when they first built the
That's
station.
right.
There's a lot more
That's
women.
true,
which
for
is
sure.
great.
Yes,
We
yes,
like that.
It's
I know.
awesome.
do.
But
That's
that, and I
that's
think
very good.
help with homeless individual and house
Yes,
individuals,
absolutely.
that would make our jobs, a lot easier, and our peace of mind, like carrying that. I know both of us kind of carry that with us when we can't help somebody in the way that they deserve to be helped. Everybody deserves to have a roof over their head, or even a temporary shelter where they're able to
Absolutely.
gather what they need to kind of move on to the next stage of their life. And for the officers too, because I've heard it so many times, like, where do we send these people? How do we help them? And they feel helpless.
Yeah.
And police officers are used to helping people.
No, that's right. No,
So I think
that's right.
that's.
Oh, I know one question I wanted to ask you. I've already finished, but
it's okay.
I'm wrapping it. But something I thought about. Are you involved with? I just hear stories of dementia patients, Alzheimer's, being kind of lost out in the community. Sometimes wandering. Sometimes, wandering and going into restaurants and not knowing where they are and things like that. Do you ever get called to
Yes.
those? Okay,
That's
yeah.
one of the biggest populations
I was
of
gonna-
people that
I
we
was
deal
gonna
with are
ask you.
memory care
Yes.
issues, and even not people that don't have memory care issues but are much older. So, and then we've seen a big increase of that. Big increase of that post-COVID, because a lot of people lost their partner, or the kids moved away, or family members passed away, unfortunately. So we're seeing a lot more older individuals.
See, I think we have to call attention when Jeff comes in and asks about that too. Thank you for that, because that's a huge concern, isn't it? I think in some ways the mental health of older people has not been minimized, but when you look at suicide rates of older people and prescription drug overdose use of older people, and sometimes we think it's adolescence, and and it is, but it's spread across.
I know for both of us, that's definitely a soft spot.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
older population.
Of course,
We
yes.
We have a few
absolutely.
of our people that we check in on, we just because that's a big concern. We want to make sure that they're, we see them, once a week, once every 2 weeks, and that
That's
they
great.
have what they need, and then that we can connect them to resources like the senior center. But big increase in that sense.
Sure,
In the
yeah.
isolation,
I was gonna
think
say the
that's the biggest
isolation
piece. They went into isolation to protect themselves, and I think it's done a lot more
Right, of
damage.
course it does, right?
Yep.
And because we haven't come back from that, you know what I mean? It was kind of like they were isolated, so we almost forgot about them.
The cognitive decline
Right.
associated with isolation, and
Yes.
it just makes it much worse,
Yep.
doesn't it? You know?
And that's why the senior center is so
Oh, it's
great,
so
because
good.
we
It
go
is.
there all the time and we're like, ooh, maybe we'll move our office here. I mean, they serve food, they have a little
It really
store,
is.
they have
It's so well
activities, they have
done,
like
right.
a card room, a room specifically for cards. They had like 27 Christmas trees this year,
They're
something
amazing.
spectacular. They have puzzles. Like, in fact, we went to go visit a few of our older individuals, and the senior center gave us some puzzles so that we could take them and deliver
You
them
guys, come
for the
on.
Christmas
You guys.
for Christmas time. But yeah, no, it's great. But that is also, I think, unhoused population in our older
Okay,
folks
good.
are
Thank you.
struggling
That's
the most.
very helpful to me. So I know you're busy, and I want to thank you. Just to tell you what an honor and pleasure it was to have you come. I know you're busy and to take time out, but I think it's very important for the people in the town to know you and what you do, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you for having us.
And I want to thank everyone for watching today. Again, this is Mental Health, the Crisis of Our Time. I want to thank our producer, Chris Flynn, Franklin TV, for bringing this program to you, and see you next time.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.